Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Teacher with the Kid, back with another video. Today we're going to talk about parallel lines and angle pairs. We're going to do a quick background check on this, quick recap. So we know that parallel lines are two lines that never cross. So the parallel lines in this diagram is K and I. And then we know that a transversal is basically that line that cuts through those two lines that we call parallel lines, which is line L. Here, when two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, the following pair of angles are known to be congruent, and that's alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and corresponding angles. And we're going to talk about one more pair of angles that are not listed here, but we're going to keep going for now. So first, let's talk about interior angles. So if you look here, all of these angles here in the inside of these parallel lines will be considered our interior angles. And then if you notice on the outside here, all of these angles will be considered exterior angles. So that should give us a better overview when we start talking about alternate interior and alternate exterior angles. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So for alternate interior angles, we know that those are the angles that are actually on the inside of those two lines that we call parallel lines. But when we use the word alternate, we're talking about they're on opposite sides of the transversal L. So the first pair of alternate interior angles we'll talk about is angle 3 and angle 5. These two angles are congruent. So you have angle 3 and angle 5. And then we'll move on to another set of another set of alternate interior angles, and that's angle 4 and angle 6. Notice I use two different colors because I want you to understand that those two angles, those pair of angles will have different numbers, will be equal to different measures. So I want you to keep that in mind. So we have 3 and 5 are alternate interior angles, and then you have 4 and 6 that are also alternate interior angles. But if they ask you what are the interior angles consist of angle 3, angle 4, angle 5, and angle 6. Alright, so we have that. Now let's move on to the exterior angles. Keep in mind at the beginning of the video we said that the exterior angles are the angles that are on the outside of these lines that we consider to be parallel. So we have angles 1 and 2 and 7 and 8 that are our exterior angles, but we want to know our alternate exterior. So let's start off with angle 2 and angle 8. If you notice, I kept the same color. I have angle 2 and angle 8. If you notice, angle 2 and angle 4 are the same color because that means that they will be congruent as well, and these will be called our vertical angles. Alright, so angle 2 and angle 4. I wanted to add that in so that you can get an understanding of that, because you may have heard it in class when talking about these angle pair relationships. So anyway, moving forward. So the first pair of alternate interior and exterior angles are angle 2 and angle 8. Alright, so now we have angle 2 and angle 8, but there is another pair of alternate exterior angles, and that will be angles 1 and angle 7. Notice here, once again, 1 and 3 are the same colors because they are congruent, and they are also vertical angles as well. So the next pair of alternate exterior angles will be angle 1 and angle 7. All of these angles have some type of relationship because they are congruent. So if you notice, the colors are all the same. So now let's start talking about these corresponding angles. When we talk about corresponding angles, we're talking about angles in the same position with respect to one another, or the way that I can explain it in a more simpler way is basically they're in matching corners. Okay, so let's look at angles 1 and 5. If you notice that these two angles are the same color, that means that they are corresponding angles. So angles 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. And if you notice that 4 and 8 are also the same color, you have angles 4 and angles 8. Well, how would I know that they're corresponding? Because when we talk about matching corners, if you look at where angle 1 is positioned on this line K, and where angle 5 is positioned on line I, you will notice that they're in matching corners. So Angle 1 and 5, and 4 and 8 are corresponding angles. And then you also have on the other side of the transversal L, you have angles 2 and angle 6 that are also the same color. So you have angle 2 and angle 6, which will also be corresponding angles. And then you have angles 3 and angle 7. So these are all of the pair of angles that are known to be congruent, but we have more. So you may have heard of the word supplementary. And we know that when we talk about supplementary angles, we know that the angles add up to be, yep, you guessed it, 180 degrees. So here, when we talk about that, angles adding up to be 180 degrees, we want to talk about those supplementary angles. We can look and see exactly what pair of angles will actually equal up to give us, actually equal up to give us 180 degrees. So when we talk about that, we have what we call consecutive interior angles. Okay, so consecutive interior angles are basically those angles that are on the inside of those parallel lines, and they are on the same side of the transversal. So look at 3 and 6. 3 and 6 are supplementary. 3 and 6 are supplementary because what that means is whatever those angles are, it will equal up to be 180 degrees. So let me show you how. So just say, for example, if angle 1 is equal to 100 degrees. So if angle 1 is equal to 100 degrees, that means that angle 3 is also equal to 100 degrees. Well, that's good. So we know that line K is a line. So we know that a line measures to be 180 degrees. So in order for me to find angle 2 measurement, I can just come over here and subtract 100 from 180, which is going to give me 80. So angle 2 is equal to 80 degrees. Well, we know that angles 2 and 6 are corresponding, meaning that those angles are congruent. So angle 2 is equal to 80, but also angle 6 is equal to 80. Well, when we talk about supplementary angles, we're talking about those consecutive interior angles. So angle 3 plus angle 6 should equal to be 180 degrees. So angle 3 is equal to 100 degrees plus angle 6 is equal to 80, which will equal to give us 180 degrees. So these are called our angles 3 and 6 are called our consecutive interior angles, which are considered supplementary. All right, so that is the way. In another video, I'll show you how to fill in the information for the missing angles, but I just wanted to stop here so that it won't go too far. But however, this is the pair of angles these are the pair of angles that are known to be congruent. You have alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and corresponding angles. I'm going to end this video here. Please forgive me for the noise in the background. As you all know, this is Teacher with a Kid, and thank you for choosing my math video. Have a great day.